Hi everyone. I am going to tell you a story, and this is going to be the first of two. There might be more, but these are the two most important ones I'm going to tell. And this will be story number one. It will most likely be broken into 2 or 3 parts, so please keep following along. The story is a personal experience of me being a first responder or first on scene to a farm murder. And the story goes like this. It was around 8 o'clock at night when I needed to let my dogs back inside after doing their evening business. It's already in pajamas, ready to go to bed. And as I opened our security gate, I heard 3 shots and followed shortly by blood-curdling screams. I yelled at my ex at the time to grab the phones and to grab our first aid bag, and I ran out of the house. I had no idea if the perpetrators were still in the area, if they were still actively busy in the house. It didn't matter to me at the time. Somebody was in need of help, and I was not about to hide in my house when somebody else is out there dying. So pajamas and bare feet, I bolted out the house and made my way to the general area of where the shots were fired from. As I got closer, based on the screams, I could identify which house it did come from, and I made my way around the back of the house towards the kitchen side. A lady of around her 60s and her son in probably his late 20s were living there at the time. I ran into the house through the kitchen door, and I found her a few meters from the kitchen door lying on her side. I asked her if there was anybody else in the house still, and she replied, not as far as she knows. She thinks they ran out of the living room sliding door. I need to please locate her son, she hasn't seen him. So I left her there, looked through the house, did a quick sweep, made sure nobody else was there lying and waiting, and went out to go and find her son, which I found lying in the garden, exactly where she said the perpetrators have left from, through the glass doors, through the living room. He was there in the garden. In the meantime, my ex had phoned the police and the ambulance service, and I had to start giving some care and aid to these people. The lady was shot once in the stomach. It was not a through and through. I could not find an exit wound, so that is already a big concern for me, medical-wise. Her son was shot twice, in the upper leg as well as the buttocks area. I tended to both of them as best as I could, and by the time more neighbors have arrived to assist us there, 30 minutes or more probably had passed, and there was no police, there were no ambulance service, and it was time to get going. My ex had brought the car around, and at the time we were driving a Subaru Outback, which I will explain why this is important in just a little bit. So we put the back seats down, we loaded the lady in our car, and neighbors offered to take her son to the hospital as well. We couldn't wait any longer. Her situation was deteriorating very fast. She was going into shock, and her son was in a tremendous amount of pain. We could no longer wait around for help to arrive. Keep in mind that it is rural. It is the Lanseria area. It was a nature reserve, and the properties there were broken into 1 hectare to about 3 hectare plots. So we did live relatively close enough to one another, but help was far away. It either didn't arrive or it took forever to get there. So the urgency was there to get her to the nearest hospital. Halfway to the hospital, this lady had stopped breathing. Thank you to Subaru's Outback, I was able to do CPR in the back. Yes, it is possible in the Outback to do CPR in the car. Fortunately for us, she started breathing shortly before we actually arrived at the hospital. She went into surgery. Her son arrived there shortly after, and he went straight into surgery as well. Even on our way to the hospital, there was no sign of any police, no sign of any ambulances on the way. Help was just not coming for us. And it is what it is there. I'm going to go to part 2. Stand by. 2. I left off on part 1, arriving at the hospital with the lady, with the son following shortly after, and they are sent to go into surgery immediately after that. I arrived home that morning around 3:30. I burned my blood-soaked pajamas in our fire pit that night. There is no amount of laundry detergent, Omo, sunlight, Jik, that can wash out that amount of blood out of clothes. As far as I'm aware, the perpetrators did not take much of anything from the house. It was just a senseless attack. The lady and her son were unarmed, did not own firearms, and did not keep firearms or any kind of weapon in the house. They got lucky, and they both survived physically. Mentally, not so much. They never returned to the house, and family members cleaned out their house and moved their belongings to a different place. It is unknown if the perpetrators were ever found, arrested, or prosecuted. We do know that there were at least 3 of them. Help is far from that area. There we had to take care of our own. And all we wanted to do was live in a beautiful nature reserve surrounded by animals and wildlife. Grow our own vegetables and be self-sufficient. That's what we wanted. Life is different in South Africa. Very, very different. I'm going to end off the story here. My next video will be of story number 2, which is a story of my own farm attack that I lived through. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I will do follow-up videos on this. So, do let me know. Keep safe, everyone.
Yeah.